always just go at it when like defending.
I think it's like
it's never a boring day. Allegedly, Arsenal want to sell Martinelli. Berta's transfer plans have been exposed and everything in between. Good morning, folks. Make sure you're smashing the like button. Big up you lot, people. Now, Gary Jacob, who works for the Times, people, obviously is behind the paywall and we didn't pay for that. We had to use a remove paywall to be able to read this, people. Forgive me. Why haven't Arsenal signed anybody yet? Should fans be worried? What a headline. Big up Gary Jacob on that one. Should Arsenal be worried? Why haven't we signed anyone? Let me know your thoughts. In fact, I don't know if that's you lot would say that's rage bait or triggering, but let me know your thoughts. Martin Zubamendi, Kepa Sprililaga. Again, I tried, people. I can't pronounce that. Are set to join Miles Lewis Skelly. Sorry, are set to join. And Miles Lewis Skelly is close to a new deal, but club have missed out on Nico Williams and are yet to bid for a much-needed striker. I mean, that isn't necessarily news to us. For all the talk about Sesko, Gyökeres, and all the in-between, we haven't lodged an official bid, and it ain't been rejected or accepted, and medicals ain't taking place. Nico Williams is moving ever closer to Barcelona. And you know, for all the talk about his wage demands, there's now rumors that he's willing to take significantly less at Barca. So that raises in question, how far did our pursuit genuinely go? Because I don't buy into the rhetoric that we've gone into this summer still chasing Nico Williams. That is where my issues are, because don't get twisted. You need to address that left wing. You need to address up front. And I obviously, for football clubs, it's no excuse because players are everywhere. So everybody just needs an opportunity to make a name for themselves. You've got the stars, you've got the emerging talents. But to me as a football fan, as much as I love youth content and emerging stars, the striker market, there's options there. But it's not really the best in my 30 years that I've seen the striker market. Even though the modern day is all about the false nine stuff and all of that, there's not really quality ones like that. The same goes for left wing. So it raises in question what we do. But Berta's got 11 to 12 years experience. Arsenal Football Club have known for a number of years those two positions are needed. Even when, remember the year Martinelli got double figures and we still tried to get Mudryk. Thank the Lord that never worked out. But we was prepared to put big money down on him. So clearly, regardless, we wanted the left winger. You look at the investment defensively and in midfield, it's generally worked out, especially in the defensive unit. Extend that to the goalies. Up front is where it gets muddied. The players that play the most, or are in Martinelli's case, and Bukayo Saka, they were at the club already, people. You know, Merino and Kai Havertz, because it didn't work out per se in midfield, they've gone up front. Obviously, we've brought in Trossard, which is an exception to the rule, because Arteta, I do think it's time to invest in the front line when Yeri's come on the scene. If I'm missing someone else out, Jesus, you know, unfortunately, the beginning of the end for Jesus in that regards, unfortunately, was when he got injured for Brazil. So, yeah, man, they say defense wins titles and goals win games. We might have a title winning defense, even though we ain't won one, but do we necessarily have the goals that win the games? And I'm well aware we got 100 goals in all comps. You can hide behind that if you wish. Arsenal appointed Andrea Berta as their sporting director in March with a brief to get big deals over the line, tie down star names to new contracts, which we've done with Gabriel Martinelli, and improve player trading for the club to become self-sustaining in the long term. As I've said before, beyond everything, clearly in the last two windows, there has been an emphasis on selling more and presenting a more positive bank sheet. Obviously, the wages needs to be addressed. Clearly, we need to get deals over the line. Clearly, we need starting 11 quality players, people, which is a lot to do in a matter of months, considering a man joined in March. Nearly 3 months on, Arsenal supporters have become frustrated watching their rivals strengthen while they are yet to announce a signing in what is a pivotal summer for Mikel Arteta, Berta, and the club. It is for all three, but probably for Mikel Arteta the most. Issues in front of goal were a significant factor in Arsenal falling short in the title race for a third consecutive season, and Arteta will be under pressure from supporters to win his second big trophy since becoming the manager in 2019. Arteta wants to sign a left winger, a forward, and at least one midfielder, a centre-back, a reserve goalie, ideally before pre-season gets underway next month. Arsenal have a training camp in Spain before travelling to the Far East on July the 19th. Arsenal are not panicking as their targets are on holiday until next month after international duty. No club would want to pay wages for new players sitting on the beach. I mean, there's exceptions to the rule in what we've done and things of that ilk. To be fair, if you look at when we actually signed Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus, it does correlate with the preseason thing. And I'm not saying that for no reason. It just literally does. But that's a new one. I get it. But people have got deals done. You'd imagine if you know, in an ideal world, if Gyökeres and Sesko were affordable, well, were quote unquote affordable, like for the cheap, we would have got that done. If Rodrigo wanted to sign right now, we would have got that done, and we wouldn't care about paying their wages. So I hear all of the accountant stuff and all of that comment there, but not buying it too much. We're set to sign Martin Zubimendi. Zubimendi, I got time for you, but I am frustrated with hearing your name now. The Real Sociedad midfielder in a 51 million deal that has been in place before Berta's arrival. The club have also moved for Kepa. The keeper will cost 5 million. Obviously, Garcia has gone to Barcelona now. How has Berta been conducting his business? Berta likes to spin plates and negotiate for several players in the same position, which I don't think that should necessarily be a Berta case. That should be every competent sporting director. At the same time, before deciding which move to activate, he sees it as a normal approach on the continent, and his compatriot Fabrizio Patrici acted similarly at Tottenham Hotspur. In that sense, Berta contrasts with his predecessor Edu, who preferred to focus on a single target. And if you don't get it over the line, egg on faces. Berta believes he can sign good players at about the 65 million mark and does not want to overspend on transfer fees on wages, which is good news to me. Paying over the odds for a left winger, for example, would limit the funds available in other positions and could also have a knock-on effect for wage demands from present players. That is true, but then again, it's that age-old thing. If you could find a player that could be the bee's knees that doesn't break the bank, great. But sometimes you have to pay for quality if you want to shatter that glass ceiling and reach higher and higher heights. And these are obviously factors that play a part, people. So mixing and blending and outgoings is going to be central. Which strikers are being considered? We've been in talks to agree deals for Benjamin Sesko and Victor Gyökeres. We could revive Arteta's interest in Ollie Watkins. Berta brought Gyökeres to the table mainly because he has scored nearly 100 goals over the past 2 seasons in Portugal. The Swede wants to move. He would prefer Arsenal over Man United. Sporting seem ready to cash in. However, others at Arsenal feel that the 27-year-old's valuation of about 80 million is too steep, given his goals have been in a relatively weak domestic league. Some of the Arsenal hierarchy want a younger striker with greater potential to grow, making Sesko more attractive at 22. Arsenal scouted the Sevillans for nearly 2 seasons before that, actually, and tried to sign him last summer. Leipzig's model is to sell players, but the fact they failed to qualify for Europe could help Arsenal this summer. Wages are not an issue, but one internal view is that his 75 million price tag is too high given his unprovenness in the Premier League. So Gyökeres is too much for 80. Sesko is too good for 75. I do think we'll barter one, if not both, down. But if you don't, where do you go? Because what are they going to ask for Ollie Watkins? What if they tell you we want the same for Ollie Watkins as in January? Are you going to show an ability to pivot to another name? I don't know. This is why Watkins, who has reached double figures in 5 consecutive seasons at Aston Villa, which I wouldn't mind Watkins in the squad, you know, with a Gyökeres or a Sesko, has again been considered. Watkins is 29, and Arsenal must hope that Villa reduce their 60 million valuation from January. After failing to reach the Champions League, Villa need to sell to boost their own transfer coffers. There's a lot of players, or a couple of players, that they'll sell before that. Another measure of the striker's quality perhaps may be in the Champions League. Last season, Gyökeres stuck 6 goals in the comp, including a hat-trick against Manchester City. Sesko's 4 goals in the competition, pardon me, were against Atletico Madrid, Juventus, and Sporting. That's a good record. Watkins got 1 and was unhappy to be substitute in both matches against PSG in the quarterfinal. Arteta likes versatile players and prefers goals to be shared across the front line, not that we really do that, rather than a single player shouldering the burden, which has been Bukayo Saka 9 times out of 10. However, he did highlight the need for a clinical finisher after the final match of the season. Believe me, we are on it. Fair play. What are the other positions? In the past fortnight, it has become clear that Arsenal will not be signing Nico Williams. We don't need to read all of that, people. We're not going to get Leroy Sané, who's going to Galatasaray owing to wage demands, and we're not going to get Nico Williams. So that's them 2, and probably Rodrigo. That's 3 targets that look a myth or are a myth. Arsenal have interest in Morgan Rogers, the Villa attacker, and Anthony Gordon, the Newcastle winger, although neither would be an easy deal. Now, simultaneously, Anthony Gordon has been linked with Liverpool, like with Isaac. Real Madrid may offload Rodrigo, who has also wanted to play left wing. Arsenal have struggled to find a midfielder in addition to Zubimendi and have been trying to extend Thomas Partey's contract beyond its expiry this month. Talks with Partey have stalled. Arsenal are expected to accelerate deals around the turn of the month. Arsenal spent 6 months trying to sign Declan Rice before his move. That summer, he and Timber joined in 2 days before Arsenal set off on their pre-season tour. Arsenal signed Ben White on July the 30th and Aaron Ramsdale on August the 20th. They signed Jesus on the 4th of July, and Zinchenko followed weeks later during their training camp in Orlando, which is true. In 2024, they signed Calafiori on July the 29th and Mikel Merino on August the 27th. So Merino on the 27th, Neto and Sterling on deadline day. We kind of messed it up, people. New contracts. We know Miles Lewis-Skelly is set to sign a new deal. Gabriel Magalhaes has already signed one. We hope to commit William Saliba, Bukayo Saka, Wanyeri, and Trossard. A couple of these players have 2 years left. Trossard's pushing for a pay rise as well. I can't begrudge him in Partey. A career short. Oh, and you know your key players to some degree. Arsenal may also look to sell fringe players and lighten the wage bill. Those include Zinchenko and Reece Nelson. Zinchenko is on big wages. He's probably gone. Nelson is probably gone. Apparently, who both earn at least 100 grand a week. Some reports this week have said that Zinchenko actually earns 200,000 a week. Jacob Kivior, Fabio Vieira, Lokonga, and potentially Martinelli. Now I hear it, but who is really going to come with 50, 60 million, 40, 50, 60 million at this moment in time with Martinelli with his wages? It sounds great, but when you break it down, it's not making sense. I did cover this yesterday, but apparently Noni Madueke is on the radar of a host of clubs this summer, including Arsenal. Arsenal are understood to have made checks on a number of different players, which makes it hard to gauge the strength of their interest in Madueke and whether they will pursue him, people, which is what it is. We've added him on the list. I don't know how much to believe in that. Again, Arsenal apparently are not willing to pay the 80 to 100 million euros that Sesko's club currently want. We're still monitoring Gyökeres and seeing if Sporting come true on their verbal agreement, people. There's talk, I did cover this, but Sesko wants a release clause in his contract if he is to join Arsenal. Where do you lot feel with that? Because for me, forget all of that. I've got nothing against a player that wants a release clause and is thinking 2 steps ahead. And maybe if I develop and win stuff for Arsenal, the Real Madrids, the Barcelonas, that elite group of clubs might be in for me. I hear that. But if they want to sign you, and provided you live up to this potential, provided you sign up for Arsenal Football Club, they need to negotiate with us respectfully. I'm not here to say we're the biggest and baddest in the world, but we're not a little man club about release clause. You can have a gentleman's agreement if you want. Forget that, bro. You do keep that nonsense over there at Leipzig, innit? Unfortunately, it's expected, well, for some Arsenal fans, that Partey is to leave Arsenal as negotiations over a new deal are at a standstill. A source has told ESPN Partey will leave the club on June the 30th, which is 10 days from the point of making this video, people. If this would be nice enough to load, once again, negotiations between Arsenal and Partey over a new deal are not advancing. No agreement so far, says Romano, and now concrete chances to part ways in the upcoming days. Thomas Partey would be available as a free agent, people. Lucien Agumi, who could be available for 20 million euros or less, the 23-year-old who is at Sevilla, who apparently have financial difficulties, is an option and apparently is on our shortlist potentially to replace him. However, we haven't contacted the player yet, so how far does that go? Brentford have put a 50 million price tag on Visa, who in my opinion goes to Spurs, but he's been linked with Nottingham Forest, Tottenham Hotspur, Arsenal, Fenerbahce, and Galatasaray. Anybody having him, people? Apparently, Arsenal have discussed Mohamed Kudus, as have Chelsea and Spurs, and we also have Madueke. It feels like the journalists are just pumping out anything now, if I'm honest with you. Like with yesterday, Partey news coming out, people, simultaneously, for what we already hear about Zubimendi, Fabrizio Romano repedaled it and said we'll pay slightly over the 60 million euros as part of a pact with Sociedad over the deal. The fee will be a bit higher, but allowing payment in installments as clubs share excellent relationship. That helps us stretch out the budget, which is true. Obviously, we hear due to accounting issues, Sociedad want it to happen in July. You scratch our back, we scratch yours. I do want to see him holding an Arsenal shirt, though, because we've been hearing for about 2 years he's an Arsenal player. Alex Crook of TalkSport has said, I had a message 24 hours or so ago suggesting that Victor Gyökeres has told friends and family he expects to join Arsenal. Arsenal are juggling both him and Sesko, but at the moment, I would say Gyökeres looks the more likely. What do you lot make of that? Credit to Arsenal young duo Miles Lewis-Skelly and Wanyeri. They've both been nominated for PFA Young Player of the Year 2025, people. They joined Morgan Rogers, Milos Kerkez, Dean Howson, who's now at Real Madrid, Liam Delap, obviously last season of Ipswich, now of Chelsea on that list, people. Who would you lot vote for? No clue if this is true, but Arsenal is the Premier League club that has pursued the transfer of Spal-talented 19-year-old left winger Emmanuel Real. Market opportunity, I guess. We've gone over Madueke. So scared I had to mention it twice. And it looks like Bayern Munich could be getting Rafael. Bayern have discussed Rafael internally again this week. There's no proposal or negotiations advancing yet. Bayern will wait for Nico Williams to see if the deal gets done with Barca and will reassess options, including Leao, Bacola, and more. We should be going for Bacola. I'm sure Leao's been on some shortlist. I mean, you need to take a leaf out of many people's book and just say, except the Nico Williams is not going to be joining you. He's going Barcelona.
He always just goes, I think, like,